Hi, my name is Felicia Carbajal with the Social Impact Center, and I'm here to talk to you about is cannabis right for my condition? So here's our mission statement. You can take a quick look at it. I'm not going to go into great detail about that. I'd rather talk to you more about cannabis works for you. And then of course, help you get a little better idea about me. So I have been in the cannabis, I don't want to call it industry, but community for 20 plus years. Hope that doesn't date me too much. I'm fortunate that I got to work on generation one of low dose cannabis therapies with some amazing people when this was so brand new to everyone in terms of microdosing and microdosing as well as CBD therapies. I'm also a cannabis patient. I have a spinal cord injury. I suffer from PTSD. I have horrible anxiety, social anxiety, and lastly, I have degenerative disc disease. I'm also a CBD expert. And last but not least, this is my 5th year with Abilities, and I never thought I'd be talking to you from the comfort of my home, but I'm excited to have this conversation with all of you today. So just briefly, I'm not going to go into too much depth about cannabis history in particular. I feel as though Wikipedia or many websites will be able to just give you the baseline that this plant is indigenous to Africa and Asia. It's been used as medicine for millennia. It was introduced to the Americas via slave trade. It's been known as medicine since 1843 in the West, thanks to Dr. O'Shaughnessy. And as many of us know, it's been federally illegal in the United States for almost a century. What most people don't know is that cannabis was a part of pharmacopoeia. And it was actually a part of pharmacopoeia until 1942. What that means is cannabis was used in a lot of the medicine that we used during that time. And when Prohibition was introduced, our medical professionals had no idea what they were talking about. They actually objected to Prohibition. They didn't know that marijuana was the same thing as cannabis, which they were utilizing to treat their patients, as you can see here. These are just bottles. And on every one of those bottles, it lets you know what kind of cannabis was used. And in most of those products, 25% of it was derived from cannabis extract. So enough about history. We know that Prohibition has existed. We now know that many states across this great nation of ours have embraced some form of regulation, whether it's for medical, whether it's for recreational, and oftentimes for both. Let's get into the science so that we have an understanding of why cannabis can be and arguably is one of the best treatment options for those of us who are sitting at home and have some kind of varying abilities level and need this to handle our pain, anxiety, all of these things. So cannabis science, super simple, is every human, every mammal has an endocannabinoid system. I'm telling you, you have an opportunity now to go ahead and Google all of this and you can see for yourself that, wow, my body has an endocannabinoid system that allows me to regulate, that allows my body to be regulated. And surprisingly enough, this endocannabinoid system that helps moderate your appetite, your mood, your memory, your reward system, and so much more, acts like a lock and key with something called a phytocannabinoid. And what most people don't recognize is that phytocannabinoid, super simple, just a plant. So phyto carries cannabinoids as well. In your body, in that endocannabinoid system, you have some receptors. You have CB1 and CB2 receptors. Most of the receptors for CB1 lie in your human nervous system. Those are the things that help you moderate your memory, your mood, some of your motor function, how you're feeling and how you're perceiving things to be. And then we have CB2 receptors that are predominantly associated with the immune system, They help provide that relief from arthritis and asthma, the different allergies that people have, and varying autoimmune and digestive disorders. So in a nutshell, your body was made for cannabis. Cannabis was made for your body. So most of us aren't that acquainted with cannabinoids in particular, but want to let you know there are a lot of them. Science is discovering so many amazing things as this plant is allowed to be studied. So we know that there are over 113 different cannabinoids with varying effects. So the most common one that people know is THC, and that's the one that is psychoactive, that a lot of people say that are my age or a little bit older who had a bad experience utilizing cannabis in college or while you're young, had too much psychoactivity, and it told you to no more. So we know that that in particular reacts with a specific receptor. Now we know CBD, we hear about it all the time. We've heard about the late Charlotte's Web. We've seen the story. We know that it's non-psychoactive and that it interacts with an entirely different receptor at its base. And then the more and more we've started to study and educate ourselves about cannabis, we've realized that there's acidic forms of cannabis. So THCA is one of the most common cannabinoids, independent of THC and CBD, and it's also non-psychoactive. So what most people don't know is that every plant has different terpenes, and those terpenes give out different smells. Those are a list of the few of the terpenes that exist in cannabis, and a bunch of other things as well that give you different scents that allow you to feel certain ways. So what we found is with cannabis, there's so many different variations, there's so many different strains that do so many different things, that have so many different cannabinoids, that we're essentially scratching the surface of what kind of cannabis can work for an individual. We know that there are a lot of options that are not just on the market, but that are just everywhere. We have a long history with this plant, with people who've grown it in their gardens for medicinal reasons. So now we're getting to the good, what people want to know more so, what are the good part. So in terms of cannabis and orally, so one of my favorite things to take every single morning, and I've been doing this for years in lieu of Valium and Xanax, is a little CBD capsule, a little tiny CBD capsule. There's 30 milligrams of CBD. It helps prime my day. Sometimes I'll associate it orally again with taking one of those other, some CBD oil, super simple, under the tongue. Take the dose that it says on whatever packaging you're utilizing. Now my favorite, especially now that I'm, like most of us, having anxiety and stress and seeing it move to particular portions of my body, is a topical. It's the easiest. If you're fortunate, this is something a great friend of mine makes. Smells amazing. It has a lot of different essential oils that are added to it. This is something that my wife and I used to make from home for ourselves as well. I've been experiencing a lot of iPhone thumb. I don't know about anybody else scrolling through their phone, reading. This has been incredible with helping with all of those types of pain. And I put it all on a lot of parts of my body because it's that simple to be able to rub on it. A vape pen, I unfortunately left it, but I think everybody knows what a vape pen looks like. It's not one of my favorite things to utilize to consume cannabis with. I've been really digging on some like low dose mints. These are like microdosed and they're little mints. Another microdosed item, 5 milligrams. It's been helping cut some of the edge off of some of the pain that I've been experiencing in my back and my knees lately. And then, of course, one of my favorites is this Sleepy Time. Like it says, it's sleepy time. So it's a sublingual spray. It's incredible, microdose, so I know the exact amount that I'm taking. And then, of course, like many of us who still utilize flour, this came from a friend's garden, some organic flour that'll help me. It's not too, doesn't have a lot of sedative properties. So we've gone through all of the different delivery methods and the options. There are a few, I want to say, more advanced methods that include dabbing that I don't necessarily think is a first step for those who are tuning in today. But those are questions people can reach out to me and ask me if they have specific questions about any of these delivery methods or anything that we're talking about today. So now, seeing all of these things that are going on and all of these options. I'm in California, so we've had some form of a regulated market for 20 plus years. And you're just wondering, you know, first question is, what's the law where you live? Because even with living in a state that doesn't have access, in terms of a storefront, we know that CBD is oftentimes available to people everywhere. And I think that the more of us who realize that CBD should be taken as a vitamin and a supplement, the more it'll help with some of the other underlying conditions that many of us have. The next thing, when you think somebody brought you a big old bag and you are going to make you some brownies, my advice, and you live in a state that doesn't have access, so you're doing this because you can't go to the store like Felicia did and tell you, oh, this is 10 milligrams and oh, this is 5 milligrams. So you're figuring it out for yourself. And even with all of these products, the rule of thumb is to go low and slow. So take a low dose and then gradually titrate up. If your body is saying that that wasn't enough or I'm not feeling it, especially if you're trying to alleviate pain, then you know naturally you would take more. And the last thing I would tell everybody that's just universal in terms of where you start, make sure that people can tell you information about testing. It's crucial now that we've known and have been exposed to a vaping crisis. We're dealing with a pandemic right now. We should know that testing is crucial. So I reached out to some of my good friends at Cannabis who've been a wealth of knowledge. They were the first ISO accredited lab in this entire country. And I asked them, you know, what are your 3 tips to tell folks across the country about best methods for health and safety in particular? So their first tip was to purchase from a licensed dispensary or retailer. They put in a note because, you know, had to remind everyone that not everyone has the luxury of living in a state that has access. So what if you're going to order online? So they'd put in a thing about if you're buying anything online, make sure that you can get that testing information in particular. It's crucial because you could know what pesticides, what insecticides have been used, and all of the things you need to do to be able to protect yourself. So in California in particular, and in other states that have a regulated market, there's a list of everybody who's allowed to be operating. Your government agency will have that list. You need to visit that list and make sure that you're buying from a reputable place that's playing by all of the rules. And now, of course, if you grow for yourself and you do have that opportunity to grow for yourself, there are labs that can tell you what's the ratio so that you can have a better idea of what's going to work for you, especially when we think about cannabinoids and terpenes and what these smells and the different variations of these cannabinoids can actually do to help you in particular. The other thing is to check packaging. That's kind of important because you want to know what you're taking. You want to know the facts. You want to know how many milligrams you're getting of everything. You also want to see a batch number and be able to identify when's it good until? How long is this going to last? Is this going to be something I'm opening up and it's rancid? You always want to check your packaging and make sure that everybody's in compliance. In California, everyone is required to have this symbol. And in other states, there are symbols as well. And then the last one is make sure to read that certificate of analysis. You know, it should indicate the compliance test number so you can reference it. It should tell you what batch number this material came from, what's the license number of the product that you're purchasing, and then whether or not it passed or failed. So you ask yourself, is cannabis right for my condition? The answer is more than likely yes. But every journey is always going to start with you taking that first step. So sources, we have a page right here that lists a bunch of sources. Your best friend is really going to be the National Institute on Health. It's the Google of conditions. And if you Google in a specific condition in cannabis, more than likely you'll be able to find some kind of research. It might be a small test group, but something that'll help you feel more connected. And then of course, one of the longest operating educational resources, Project CBD. So all of this will be made available to anybody who reaches out and asks. Of course, just want to thank Abilities for taking all of this virtually. It's so important that people get this information and feel as comfortable as possible. Cannabis isn't scary. If you knew that I took some cannabis just right before all of this to be able to be calm, because right now we're experiencing a pandemic. Things are a little crazy. And some of us just need a little bit extra, especially if we're dealing with specific conditions that have brought us to this point. So don't feel like you're alone. If you have any specific questions that I can help you with, I am an expert in this space. Our nonprofit does educational related work. So if you have a group or an organization that wants to do something more intimate, reach out. My email is right there. Again, thank you Abilities family for making this experience virtual so all of us could be together during this time.